Why can't you find it? Let me ask you something. How long have you been searching? How long have you been looking for the thing you desire, waiting for the signs, scanning the horizon for proof that it's coming? And I'll tell you something right now, something that will sound almost cruel until you understand it fully. The reason you can't find it is because you're looking for it. The very act of searching is the announcement, broadcasted into the only creative medium there is, that you do not have it. And consciousness, being the only reality, must harden that assumption into fact. You cannot find what you already possess. You cannot find what you already are. And yet here you are, turning over every stone, refreshing every inbox, asking everyone around you if they've seen any trace of it. You're looking for love, but you're living in loneliness. You're looking for abundance, but you're living in lack. You're looking for confirmation, but you're living in doubt. And I tell you, the looking itself is the very state that perpetuates the absence. This is not philosophy. This is not metaphor. This is the mechanics of creation, and it is ruthlessly precise. Consciousness is the only reality. The world you see, the circumstances you live in, the things you have or do not have, they are not causes. They are effects. They are shadows cast by the light of your own assumption. And if your assumption is I am seeking, then the world must reflect that back to you endlessly. You will always be one step away. You will always be one step away. You will always be waiting. You will always be on the verge. But if your assumption shifts, if you dare to move from seeking to having, from longing to possessing, from wanting to being, then the whole world rearranges itself to match that inner state, not because you've done something to the world, but because the world is yourself pushed out. There is no reality outside of consciousness. There is no cause outside of your assumption. And so the moment you assume you have it, you do. Not tomorrow. Not when the conditions align. Now. Welcome. If this is your first time here, you arrived at a place where we do not teach you how to get what you want. We teach you that you already are what you want to be. We teach you that imagining creates reality, and that assumption, though false to the outer senses, will harden into fact if persisted in. This is the teaching of Neville Goddard, and it is not theory. It is law. Today we are going to dismantle the seeking trap. We are going to expose the ways in which your search for the thing is the very state that denies it. And we are going to walk you into the only state that ever produces the state of the wish fulfilled, not moving toward it, not hoping for it, living from it, acting as though it is already done. Because in consciousness it is, and consciousness is the only reality. Let's begin. You have been taught to seek. From childhood, you were told that desire means distance, that wanting something means you don't have it, and that having it requires effort, time, and a long string of conditions to fall into place. You were taught that life is a process of acquisition, that you are born lacking, and that your job is to go out into the world and gather what you need: love, money, recognition, peace. You were taught that these things are out there, and that you must search for them. And so you search, you work, you plan, you hope, you try to be worthy. You tell yourself that when you've done enough, when you become enough, when the time is right, then it will come, then you will find it. But I tell you, you are looking in the wrong direction. You are looking outward when the entire cause is inward. You are treating the world as though it has power, as though it holds the keys to your happiness, as though it decides when you are ready. But the world has no power. The world is a mirror. It reflects. It does not initiate. And what it reflects is not your actions, not your effort, not your worthiness. It reflects your assumptions. It reflects the state you are living in, the identity you are occupying, the feeling you are broadcasting from morning to night. If you are living in the state of seeking, the world will give you more to seek. If you are living in the state of waiting, the world will give you more to wait for. If you are living in the state of waiting, the world will give you more to wait for. If you are living in the state of wanting, the world will give you endless proof that you do not have. This is not punishment. This is not cruelty. This is law. Consciousness is the only reality, and the world is yourself pushed out. You do not get what you want. You get what you are. Neville told us again and again, live in the end. Do not live in the middle. Do not live in the hope or the process or the preparation. Live in the end. Assume the wish fulfilled and live in the hope or the process or the preparation. Live in the end. Assume the wish fulfilled and live from that assumption, not toward it, from it. This is the entire secret, and it is so simple. They hear it, and they nod, and they say, "Yes, I understand," and then they go right back to seeking. I once heard a testimony from a woman who wanted to be married. She had been single for years, and she had done everything the world told her to do. She went out, she dated, she dressed well, she worked on herself, she visualized, she affirmed, she made lists of qualities she desired in a partner, and none of it worked. Not because the techniques were wrong, but because underneath all of it, she was living in the state of wanting to be married. Every action she took, every thought she thought, was soaked in the feeling of, "I don't have this yet. I am still looking. I am still waiting." And then one day, after listening to Neville's lectures, she understood. She stopped looking. She stopped preparing. She stopped trying to make herself ready for love. Instead, she assumed she was already loved. She began to live from the feeling of being a cherished wife, not as a future hope, as a present fact. She didn't imagine a wedding in the future. She imagined lying in bed at night next to her husband, feeling his warmth beside her, hearing him breathe. She didn't see herself waiting for love. She saw herself living in it. And she did this not to make it happen. She did it because in her imagination it was already true. 3 months later, she met a man who felt like he had always been there, not because the universe delivered him, not because her vibration matched his, but because she had changed the state she was living in. She was no longer seeking. She was no longer wanting. She was living from the wish fulfilled, and the world, being a mirror, had no choice but to reflect that. This is what Neville meant when he said feeling is the secret, not emotion, not excitement, not hope. Feeling, in Neville's language, is the acceptance of the wish as already fulfilled. It is the inner knowing that it is done. It is the quiet assumption that needs no proof, because it is its own proof. And when you live from that assumption, the outer world must conform, not might, must, because there is no other cause. Consciousness is the only reality. But most people never enter that state. Most people live their entire lives in the state of seeking. And the tragedy is not that they fail to find what they want. The tragedy is that they already have it in consciousness, and they never claim it. They are standing in the rain, dying of thirst, because they refuse to open their mouths. They are searching for the glasses on their head. They are holding the treasure in their hands and asking where it is. Why can't you find it? Because you're looking for it. And the moment you stop looking, the moment you assume it is already yours, it appears. Not because it arrived, because you finally accepted that it was always there. Let's go deeper into this. Let's talk about what happens when you seek. What is the inner state of seeking? What does it feel like? What does it assume? When you seek, you are assuming absence. You are assuming separation. You are assuming that the thing you desire is not here, not now, not yours. And that assumption, though it feels like nothing more than a thought, is the creative power. That assumption is what consciousness uses to build your world. You think you are simply observing the fact that you don't have it yet. But you are not observing, you are creating. Assumption creates reality, and the assumption that you don't have it is what keeps it away. I tell you, the outer world has no power to give or withhold anything. It is a shadow. It is a reflection. It is an echo of your inner state. And if your inner state is one of seeking, then the outer world will endlessly provide you with things to seek. You will get close, you will get signs, you will get almost, but you will not get the thing itself, because the thing itself only appears when you stop treating it as something outside of you. Neville used to say that the world is yourself pushed out. Let that sink in. The world is not a separate entity with its own agenda. The world is you. Your assumptions, your beliefs, your inner conversations, your feeling of who you are and what you have. All of it is pushed out and reflected back to you as the circumstances of your life. You are not living in a world. You are living in your own consciousness, objectified. So when you seek, you are not seeking something outside of you. You are affirming with every moment of seeking that it is outside of you. You are affirming with every moment of seeking that it is outside of you. You are affirming that it is absent. You are affirming, and consciousness, being the only creative power, must harden that assumption into fact. You will remain incomplete. You will remain in lack. not because the universe is withholding it, not because you haven't done enough, but because you are living in the state of not having. This is the seeking trap. The more you seek, the more you confirm that you don't have it. The more you look, the more you announce that it's missing. And the more you announce that it's missing, the more the world reflects that back to you. It is a loop, a vicious, exhausting loop. And the only way out of it is to stop seeking, to stop looking, to stop waiting, to dare to assume that you already have it, and to live from that assumption. Let me give you another example. A man wanted financial freedom. He was in debt. He was stressed. He checked his bank account every day, hoping to see a change. He looked for opportunities. He applied for jobs. He bought lottery tickets. He visualized money. He affirmed abundance. And nothing changed. In fact, things got worse. Why? Because every action he took was rooted in the state of lack. Every time he checked his account, he was affirming, I don't have enough. Every time he looked for an opportunity, he was affirming, I am still waiting. Every time he hoped for a change, he was affirming, it hasn't happened yet. Then he heard Neville say, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, not the hope, not the desire. The feeling of already being the man you want to be. And so he stopped checking his account. He stopped looking for money. He stopped hoping. Instead, he began to live from the assumption that he was already financially free. Not in the future, now. He didn't imagine receiving money. He imagined receiving money. He imagined already having it. He felt what it would feel like to walk through his day without worry, without stress, without the constant mental calculation of what he could or couldn't afford. He imagined opening his wallet and knowing without checking that there was plenty. He imagined the inner ease, the quiet confidence, the sense of security that comes with wealth. And here is the key. He did not do this to make money appear. He did it because in his imagination he was already wealthy. He wasn't trying to convince himself. He wasn't faking it. He was living in his imagination, which is the only place creation happens. And in that state, in that assumption, he was wealthy. Not symbolically, actually, because consciousness is the only reality. And in consciousness, he had assumed abundance. Within weeks, the outer world shifted, not in the way he expected, not through any of the avenues he had been searching. But it shifted. Money came. Opportunities appeared. Mud in the head. Debts were forgiven. The whole structure of his financial life rearranged itself. And he did not make it happen. He did not attract it. He simply stopped living in lack and started living in abundance. And the world, being a reflection, had no choice but to conform. This is what it means to live in the end. It means you stop acting toward the wish and start acting from the wish. You stop trying to get there and start living as though you were already there. You stop seeking proof and start being the proof. Because in consciousness you already are. And consciousness is the only reality. The seeking trap is subtle. It disguises itself as effort. It disguises itself as faith. It disguises itself as faith. It disguises itself as hope. But underneath all of it is the assumption of absence. And that assumption is the only thing that blocks the manifestation. Not your lack of effort. Not your lack of worthiness. Not your past or your circumstances or the difficulty of what you desire. Only your assumption. And if your assumption is that you are seeking, then you will always be seeking. If your assumption is that you are waiting, then you will always be waiting. But if your assumption is that you are waiting, then you will always be waiting. But if your assumption is that you already have it, then you do, right now, in consciousness. And the outer world will catch up. Neville once said that a change of consciousness is a change of destiny, not a change of circumstance first, a change of consciousness. Because circumstances do not create your state. Your state creates your circumstances. And if you can shift your state from seeking to having, from longing to possessing, from hoping to knowing, then your destiny changes instantly, not eventually, instantly, instantly. In consciousness, the moment you assume it, it is done. The outer world is only a delay in time, a shadow catching up to the light. So stop looking for it. Stop hoping for it. Stop hoping for it. Stop preparing for it. Assume you already have it. Dare to believe that in consciousness, which is the only place that matters, the wish is already fulfilled. And then live from that. not toward it, from it. Now let's talk about how to do this. Because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this sounds beautiful, but how do I actually live from the wish fulfilled when my outer world is screaming the opposite? How do I assume I'm wealthy when I'm in debt? How do I assume I'm loved when I'm alone? How do I assume I'm healed when I'm in pain? The answer is simple, though not easy. You do it in imagination. You do it in the only place where creation occurs. You do it in the only place where creation occurs. You do it in consciousness. Because consciousness is the only reality, and your outer world is only a reflection of what you have already assumed in consciousness. So if you want to change the reflection, you don't touch the mirror. You change what you're showing it. This is where Neville's practice of living in the end becomes intensely practical. It is not abstract. It is not mystical in the sense of vague or distant. It is immediate. It is tonight. It is right now. You begin by constructing a scene that implies the wish is already fulfilled. Not a scene of it happening. A scene that assumes it has already happened. This is crucial. You are not imagining yourself receiving the thing. You are imagining yourself already having it. This is crucial. You are not imagining yourself already having it. You are not imagining the process. You are imagining the result. Let's say you desire a specific relationship. You want to be in a committed, loving partnership with someone. The seeking trap would have you imagine meeting them. It would have you imagine the first date, the conversation, the gradual building of connection. And all of that implies time. It implies future. It implies not yet. But living in the end means you skip all of that. You go straight to the end. You imagine a scene that could only happen if you were already in that relationship. You might imagine lying in bed together, hearing them say, "I'm so glad we're together." You might imagine a friend congratulating you. You might imagine wearing a ring and feeling its weight on your finger. The content of the scene doesn't matter as much as the feeling of it. The scene must imply that the wish is already fulfilled. It must feel natural, easy, and already done. And then you enter that scene, not as a hope, not as a wish, not as a rehearsal for the future. You enter it as though it is happening now. You feel it, you hear it, you see it, you make it sensory and real. And most importantly, you allow yourself to feel the satisfaction of the wish fulfilled. Not excitement, not desperation, satisfaction. The quiet inner knowing that it is done. Neville called this the state akin to sleep. He told us to do this exercise at night as we are falling asleep, because in that drowsy state, the conscious mind relaxes its grip, and the subconscious, which is the creative power, is most receptive. You lie in bed, you relax your body, you quiet your body, you quiet your thoughts, and then you bring to mind your scene. You loop it gently, you replay it until it feels natural, until it feels real, and then you fall asleep in that feeling, in that assumption, in that state. And what you do in that moment, in that state, in that assumption, is more powerful than 1,000 days of seeking. Because in that moment, you are not trying to make it happen. You are assuming it has already happened. You are living in the end. And consciousness, being the only reality, accepts that assumption. It does not argue. It does not ask for proof. It simply hardens your assumption into fact. You do this every night. Not until it happens. You do it because in your imagination it has already happened. This is not a technique to get something. This is the recognition that in consciousness you already have it. And as you persist in that assumption, the outer world must reflect it. Not because you forced it, not because you manipulated energy or vibration or frequency, but because the world is yourself pushed out, and you have changed what you are pushing out. Let me tell you about a woman who used this to heal her body. She had been diagnosed with a chronic illness. The doctors gave her a prognosis. They told her what to expect. And for months, she lived in fear. She sought treatments. She researched. She tried everything. And the more she sought healing, the sicker she felt. Because every search was an affirmation of illness. Every treatment was an acknowledgement of disease. She was living in the state of being sick and trying to get well. Then she stopped seeking. She stopped fighting. She stopped trying to heal. Instead, she assumed she was already healed. Every night she imagined herself doing something she couldn't do in her current state. She imagined running. She imagined a doctor telling her the tests came back clear. She imagined her family hugging her and saying, "We're so glad you're okay." She imagined her family hugging her and saying, "We're so glad you're okay." She didn't imagine the healing process. She imagined the result. She lived in the end. And she did this not because she believed it would heal her. She did it because in her imagination she was already healed. And she knew, because Neville had taught her, that consciousness is the only reality. That imagination creates reality. That assumption persisted in, hardens into fact. Within months her symptoms faded. Her tests improved. Her doctors were stunned. And she was not surprised, because she had already accepted her healing in consciousness. The outer world was simply catching up. This is what I'm telling you to do. Whatever you desire, stop seeking it. Stop waiting for it. Stop hoping for it. Assume you already have it. Construct a scene that implies it. Enter that scene every night as you fall asleep. Feel it. Live it. Saturate yourself in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And do it, not to make it happen, but because in consciousness it has already happened. And consciousness is the only reality. This is not fantasy. This is not pretending. This is the creative act itself. When you imagine with feeling, when you assume the wish fulfilled, you are not rehearsing, you are not preparing, you are creating, you are impressing your subconscious, which is the builder of your world, with the pattern of the wish fulfilled. And it must build that. It has no choice. It does not question. It simply builds that. It has no choice. It does not question. It simply builds what you have assumed. And the moment you assume it, it is done. Not in the outer world yet, perhaps, but in consciousness, which is the only place where anything is ever done. The outer world is only a printout. It is only a reflection. It is only a delayed echo of what you have already created in consciousness. And if you persist in the assumption, the echo catches up. The reflection clears. The printout completes. This is the law. This is the promise. And it is available to you right now, not when you're ready, not when you've done enough. Right now. Right now, because you already have it in consciousness. You're just not living from it. You're living from the seeking. You're living from the waiting. You're living from the wanting. And as long as you live from that state, that's what the world will reflect. But the moment you shift, the moment you dare to assume it is already done, the moment you live in the end, everything changes, not eventually, now, in consciousness. And the world will follow. Let's zoom out for a moment. Let's look at the bigger picture, because this teaching is not just about getting what you want. It's not just about manifesting a relationship or money or health. It is about the nature of reality itself. It is about who you are. You are not a body moving through a world. You are not a person seeking God. You are not a limited being hoping to become more. You are not a mercenaries. You are the creative power. You are the I am. And everything you experience, everything you see, everything you encounter, is you pushed out. There is no reality outside of your consciousness. There is no power outside of your assumption. There is no cause outside of your imagination. This is what the scriptures mean when they say, I am that. I am that is not the name of a distant deity. That is the name of your own being. You are the I am. And whatever you attach to that I am becomes your reality. If you say, I am seeking, then you will seek. If you say, I am waiting, then you will wait. If you say, I am lacking, then you will lack. If you say, I am lacking, then you will lack. But if you say, I am fulfilled, I am loved, I am abundant, I am whole, then that is what you will experience. Not because you spoke magic words, but because consciousness is the only reality, and you have just defined your consciousness. Neville told us that imagination creates reality. But he also told us that imagination is God. That the creative power you use every time you imagine, every time you assume, every time you enter a scene in your mind, that power is the divine power. It is not something you have. It is what you are. You are not using imagination. You are imagination. You are the creative force that is imagining this entire world into being. And when you understand that, when you really accept that, then the idea of seeking becomes absurd. What could you possibly seek? You are the source. You are the creator. You are the power that makes all things. The thing you desire does not exist outside of you. It exists in you. It is a state of consciousness, and you can occupy that state any time you choose, not when the conditions are right, not when you've earned it, now, right now, by assumption. This is why Neville said, dare to assume it, because it feels audacious. It feels wardacious. It feels bold. It feels almost arrogant to assume that you already are what you wish to be, when the outer world is showing you the opposite. But that audacity, that boldness, that willingness to assume in defiance of the senses, that is faith, not hope, not belief in something outside of you. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. Faith is the willingness to live from your imagination rather than from your senses. Faith is the assumption of the wish fulfilled, persisted in until it hardens into fact. And when you live from that faith, when you live from that assumption, you are not trying to change the world. You are not trying to manipulate reality. You are simply claiming your inheritance. You are simply occupying the state that is already yours. You are simply being what you already are. The world will reflect that. It must. Because the world is yourself pushed out. And once you stop seeking, once you stop waiting, once you stop looking for it, you will realize it was never missing. You were just looking in the wrong direction. You were looking outward when the entire treasure was within. So here is what I want you to do tonight. Here is the practice. Not as a technique to get something, but as the creative act itself. Tonight, as you lie in bed, as you begin to drift towards sleep, I want you to choose one desire, one thing you have been seeking, one thing you have been waiting for, and I want you to stop seeking it. Stop waiting for it. Stop imagining the future arrival of it. Instead, assume it is already done. Construct a scene in your mind, a simple scene, a short scene, something that implies the wish is already fulfilled. It could be a conversation, it could be a touch, it could be a single image. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It just has to imply the end. It has to feel like it already happened. Now close your eyes, relax your body, let go of the day, let go of the day, let go of the date, get caught of the need to figure out how, and step into that scene. See it from your own eyes. Hear the sounds, feel the textures, make it sensory, make it real, and most importantly, feel the satisfaction of the wish fulfilled, not the thrill of it coming, the satisfaction of it being, the quiet, natural ease of already having it. Loop that scene gently, replay it, let it become familiar, let it become natural, and as you do, let yourself sink into the feeling. Let that feeling saturate you. Let it become your state. Let it become your state. And then, from that state, from that feeling, from that assumption, fall asleep. Do not worry about whether you did it right. Do not monitor yourself. Do not look for results. Simply do it. Simply assume it. Simply live in the end. And do it again tomorrow night. And the night after that. Not until it happens. Because in your imagination, it has already happened. You are not trying to create it. You are echoing it. You are alcheming it. And as you persist in that state, as you persist in that assumption, the outer world will shift. It must. Because consciousness is the only reality, and you have changed your consciousness. You are no longer seeking. You are no longer waiting. You are no longer in the state of absence. You are no longer in the state of fulfillment. You are living in the end, and the world, being a mirror, will reflect that. This is the law. This is the promise, and it is yours right now. Not someday, now, because you already have it. You just have to stop looking for it. There is a passage from Scripture that Neville loved to quote, "Be still and know that I am God." Most people read that as a call to worship something outside of themselves, but Neville knew the truth. Be still. Stop seeking. Stop striving. Stop looking outward, and know that I am God. Know that the I am, the consciousness that you are, is the creative power. It is the source. It is the substance of all things. And whatever that I am assumes becomes. So be still. Stop looking for it. And know that you already are ready. Know that in consciousness the wish is already fulfilled. Know that the world is yourself pushed out, and that as you change your inner assumption, the outer world must follow. This is not a teaching about getting. This is a teaching about beginning. This is a teaching about being. And the moment you shift from trying to get to simply being, everything changes. The seeking ends. The struggle ends. Because you realize you were never separate from the thing you desired. You were never lacking. You were never incomplete. You were simply looking in the wrong direction. Now you know. Now you see. Now you understand. You already have it. You always did. And the moment you assume that, the moment you live from that, the moment you assume that, the entire world shifts to match. So tonight, as you fall asleep, the mate, assume it. Live in the end. Not as a technique, not as a trick, but as the recognition of what is already true in consciousness. You already have it. Stop looking for it, and live from that truth. The world will follow. It must. Because the world is yourself pushed out, and you have just changed what you are pushing out. This is the teaching. This is the law. This is the promise. And it is yours right now. Be still. Assume the wish fulfilled, and watch the world conform.